What is good, you guys? This is Steven with All Talk On, and today we're going to go over this. This is the Thermaltake Core V21, the bigger brother to the infamous Thermaltake Core V1, which I absolutely love, so I decided to pick this case up and see what we can do with it. Alright, you guys, so the first thing we're going to go over is a little bit of a size comparison, because this case is substantially bigger than I originally thought it would be. So I want to show you guys what you're getting into if you do purchase this case, especially if I'm going to recommend it. Now, I did not know it was going to be this much bigger. I did know it would be a little bit bigger, but overall it still keeps its small form factor and keeps its nice cube shape. But right here we have the Thermaltake Core V1, and as we can see, we're about 3 inches shorter and about 2 or 3 inches skinnier, I guess. And then the overall depth of the case is where it makes a huge difference. The depth of this case is only about 12 inches. As far as the depth for this case is a whopping 16 inches. So this case is very long, big, and fat, but it does support a lot more things than the Thermaltake Core V1, as well as it has a lot more fixes that were problems in this case, have now been fixed for the most part. So yeah, that's a very good thing. I'm still happy I got this case, and I have a little bit of a thing I'm going to tell you guys I want to do with it later. But for now, we're just going to do a little bit more comparison. We're going to compare it to a regular size case, so that way you guys can get a real good idea, because I know there isn't really any English reviews on this case, not really any good ones, and from all the ones I watched, I could not tell how big this thing was. So that's one of the main reasons I wanted to emphasize that this thing is a little bit bigger than this. So we're going to pop up another case here and compare it to that. Alright, so the case we're going to be comparing it to is the Nzxt Phantom 240 mid-tower case. This case is overall fairly big at about 22 inches tall, counting this part right here, this big hump on the top. And I think it was about 23 inches in length. Yeah, everything's taken out of it right now, which will bring me to my next part. But as you guys can see, we got just a little bit of a size comparison comparing this to a mid-tower. So it is a lot shorter, which is nice, but it is also about twice as wide as this case. This case is only about 6 inches wide or so. This case is coming in, I think, about 13 inches wide. Or it might have been 12.6 inches wide is what this is. So overall, though, it still keeps this nice small form factor, and like I said, it's got packed full of features that you can do with this case, which we will be going through. And actually, that is part of why this case is brutally gutted out for the most part. The reason this case is brutally gutted out is because I'm going to modify this case, and I'm going to put my full-size ATX motherboard inside of it, along with everything that was inside of this case, which might be a little bit of a challenge because I have a lot of fans, and a full-size motherboard is probably the biggest challenge because this does not support a full-size motherboard. So we're going to go ahead and pop this thing open and see what we can find out inside of it. Alright, you guys, so the first thing we're going to go over, I guess, is a little bit of a spin around like I did with the last case. And then we're going to start going through some things that they had fixed and some other features. Sorry, that's one thing they fixed, you guys. It's got rubber feet on the bottom. That's why you heard it kind of vibrate a lot. We have our case window. We have our I/O plate and all that good stuff, our Pci slots. So as you can see, we can support a we can support a micro ATX motherboard. This also has 5 slots, so that way you can actually crossfire or SLI, so you can run up to 2 GPUs in it. Right here on the side, we can see we have a mesh filter on the panel. So we're going to spin it back around and just start off from the front, because that's where the best place to start is. So one thing they fixed is this, rotatable with a magnet. I will say the magnet is a little weak, but it holds on there pretty good, but it's a little weak, you know what I mean? So it holds on there, though it does its job. So this is rotatable, so that's a nice fun fact feature right there. And then, unlike the Thermaltake Core V1, there was a little bit of a latch at the bottom right here to allow easy removal from pulling underneath it. This one has no latches anywhere. It is completely symmetrical for the most part, and that allows for it to be installed in any way that you want it to go. Unlike the Thermaltake Core V1, you could not do this with the front panel. You could only rotate the whole case. So with that happening, of course, you have your cutout for your little I/O, your case I/O. The one thing with that though, you might be thinking is, well, if you rotate the case over here, the I/O plate isn't over there. Well, they thought of that. I've already removed the screw, but there is a screw holding this down. You simply push up after undoing the screw and pull this out, and what do you know? Comes right out. And then these holes right here, you simply just wire your cables in through there, find the little locking mechanism, which right here, which will line up with these, and you simply slide them in, push it down, screw it back on, and now your shield, your front case panel will line up with the I/O, allowing you for further modification, rotation type options, I guess you would say. So I thought that was an awesome thing that they didn't do with the Thermaltake Core V1. We still get our 200mm fan at the front. It looks as if up here, so I'm going to pull this out so it doesn't get in the way. We're just going to disassemble most of this case right now anyways. So we'll pull that out. Oh yeah, I guess we'll go over, obviously it comes with your USB 3.0, your audio, and your power and LED reset and all that stuff, you know, the standard. This is basically, looks exactly the same as the one on the Core V1. It doesn't look like they changed it very much. And they're all black cables, which is nice except for the audio. So it looks up here as if these screws would line up for this 200mm fan to actually be moved upwards. Now I was looking at it and it looks like they would allow you to do that, but this has a round cutout behind the fan to allow it to sink in, which I don't think moving it up would be a really good option. So I don't know what these are for. Maybe if you want to mount some, I don't know if they have radiators that wide, I guess maybe, I don't know, but either way, you have a ton of mounting options up here all over the place for anything you want to put. LEDs. I think that this slot was for a 5¼ inch bay, so they don't have a cutout on here for a 5¼ inch bay, but I guess you take a Dremel and do what PC modders do best and Dremel that shit out and put a little whatever optical drive or anything you want to stuff in there, because it definitely looks like it could fit one. Let me see if I can find an optical drive. Alright you guys, sorry, no optical drive. I don't have one in my garage and I'm not going to go fish one out of my computer. But we can just take some measuring tape, and if I had sturdy hands, and that is a lot more than 5¼ yeah, that's 5¾ So they gave you, I guess, a little bit more space if you want to move it left and right, I guess. I don't really know. Maybe this is actually, maybe I would think maybe if you want to mount your radiator so the tubing can go through here, or maybe mount a bay reservoir to right here, something like that. Maybe that's what they were doing. So we'll start pulling off some panels here. Unlike last time when I did my review, I need to find somewhere to put the panels, which I probably should have done before I started filming, but you know, we go as we go. Alright, so we'll move to the side of the window. So obviously the window doesn't have to be here. The window can go on any panel you want, just like the Core V1. It does that. No big deal. It doesn't warp when you put it on. It stays perfectly straight when you put it on. So inside you can see right here we have our 3¼ inch bays for our hard drives. Now I pulled one of these out and I didn't see any rubber dampening or anything like that, except for like this little, that's not even rubber, that's like a, I can't even explain what that is. It's like a meshy feel kind of thing going on there. But either way, you just grab a hard drive that you randomly have laying around like I do, and what's mostly going to clip it in is these ones at the top. So you clip in these top ones, and then you got to like kind of force these bottom ones in. It's a little bit of a hassle to get them in and out, and they do feel like some cheap plastic, but they hold the drive like really securely. Don't do this with your hard drive. I don't care about this hard drive, that's why I'm doing it, but it holds it really securely, you know, so I wouldn't worry about them falling out or vibrating too much. Yeah, I just threw it. I told you I don't care about it. So that's obviously the inside. We'll get more on the inside once I take the rest of it apart. So I'll take the top off to show you guys this. So we have our gigantic, like, gridded ventilation holes, which is awesome, and a gigantic mesh filter. Now, in videos when I was watching, this mesh filter looked like shit, this magnetic mesh filter, and it is a little bit of a bitch to get back in place. It doesn't like to move back and forth. It's actually more stronger than the magnetic front for the case badge thingy. So anyways, it's a really nice filter though, and it looks shitty on video, but honestly, in person it looks pretty damn good. It doesn't look too bad at all, not too shabby. So we have our rear for support for 120mm fan and 140. Thank God they ditched the whole 80mm fan BS. I did not like that, or 90mm, 92mm, or whatever. I'm glad they got rid of that. The drive cages are removable by these two screws right here. You can pull the entire drive cage out with all of the sleds in it, so you can remove it if you want. Say you only want one hard drive, or you're not using 3.5-inch hard drives. You can actually take that out if you don't want to use it and put maybe something like your reservoir or something like that, you know what I mean? So this case has like tons of like customizable cooling options all over it. But I really love the fact that I can have a 140mm fan back here, or 120, but I'll most likely do 140 for me. Obviously, we go to this side, same thing, it's a fan. They can go on top, doesn't matter where you put it. I wouldn't suggest putting it on bottom because there's no feet on it, so you know. But that's the other side panel that it came with. And you can order separate side panels. Those separate side panels will cost a little bit extra. You order them directly from Thermaltake, and you can either order mesh filter ones, I'm pretty sure, or you can order the case window, whichever ones you want, for extra ones if you want them. But it does come with one case window, 2 mesh side panels. Okay, so that's covered. Then we have the bottom, which is just like any of the other ones. It's the same shape. Now we can pop it in, and bam, and now this will be the bottom of the case. So one good thing I do like about that is, if you guys saw my little gripe at the old one, when you would do that, the power supply fan, we'll show you guys this before I go over it, but the power supply fan filter thingy right here, nice little power supply fan filter. When you move this to the bottom, it is no longer where your power supply is, seeing that there's only one mounting point in this case for power supply. Also, I'll show you guys too. These are still clipped in there, plastic clips. It's kind of sad, but you know, it's whatever. But they have nice little rubber feet on, you know, plastic with rubber lined feet at the bottom, so it's nice that it doesn't slip around. And also this gridded area right here, which if we can grab a fan or two, we can see if we can actually support any fans here. From the looks of it, this lines up with 120mm fans right here, so you can have 2 of them right on the bottom of the case, or well, it's always going to be the bottom because this is the bottom plate. So you can have fans on the bottom plate, which is freaking awesome. Like I said, there's just so much to cover on this case. I'm so happy I'm going to do a good English review for this case. And even some of the different language ones, I was having trouble following along because they just seemed like they were missing a lot of features, especially now that I have the case and I'm looking at it. So back to the power supply business. As you guys can see, I ripped out my power supply already. We have an EVGA Supernova 750 watt 80 plus gold, really freaking long power supply. Pretty damn big. This is definitely bigger than the EVGA 500, bigger than the CX 600 by Corsair. So we can see that this thing will totally just fit, and you can literally put the longest power supply you can freaking handle. Now, one thing that didn't get changed, which doesn't really bother me too much, but there could have been several ways to implement this into this case. This case was about, I paid $80 for it. It usually sells for anywhere from 60, 70 to 80. The cheapest I've really seen it was 65, but I picked it up for $70, then $10 shipping. So one thing they definitely could have changed, and there are ways to implement this, is the cutout for the motherboard tray is just like in the Thermaltake Core V1. You can't have access to your backplate without removing your power supply. There's just no way to it. The power supply totally covers that. Now, ways they could have fixed that was mounted the power supply somewhere over here where it's not really in the way. And then there are special cords that you can get that's a power cord like extender that'll come to right here and have the back of the case. That way you could keep access to your motherboard and still have this open space if you want to use it for cable management. You could route the wires in between the drive cages. So that was definitely something for an $80 case. You'd think they would have just implemented, just kept this filled in, no need to keep that there, and then put the extender that plugs into the back of your power supply and comes out and basically extends the cord to your power supply. That would have been nice implementation that they could have done here to make this case more worth the money. Though I think it is a great case, but I mean, for $80, I kind of would have hoped they would have fixed this whole remove your power supply to have access to your backplate. So as you can see, we can fit a gigantic power supply in there. There's no reason to stress on what kind of power supply you can put in here. So we're going to flip it back over and go to some more features. So we have our 2.5-inch drives. I am actually looking for a 2.5-inch hard drive as we speak, because I know I have like 4 of them laying around here. I don't know where they are, but either way, they slide in and clip with this little bracket, pushes pressure against them to hold them in place, and you can screw them in if you really want the extra security, which I would suggest, I guess. Especially if this is going to be a small case and you want to move it around. So right here, as we can see, we have holes all up and down this beast, which basically allows you to move them here, 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 you know, all the way around the spectrum of moving them. Why there are holes here, I'm not sure. Maybe, no, can't mount them like that. I don't know. There's holes all over the place, but I think that might be for mounting special things like reservoirs. Once again, custom water cooling loop. They put holes all over the place so you don't have to drill your own, which is an awesome thing. So this comes with 3 2.5-inch drives. And like I said, if you want to rock 3 SSDs or 3 2.5-inch drives, you can get rid of that cage bracket right there and definitely get some extra space for other mods that you would like to put in. So for the motherboard tray, it's pretty standard. We have our ITX, our mini ITX standoffs, and then we have our micro ATX standoffs. So this does support ITX and micro ATX motherboards. So there are the standoffs. They are pre-pushed in. They're like popped up little stands, so you don't have to worry about installing them. And I do have an old school micro ATX motherboard. I'm pretty sure this is micro ATX. It's tiny. So my micro ATX motherboard, which lines up with all the holes, and this is an old motherboard too, and this lines up with all the holes just fine. So I mean, your standard micro ATX motherboard fits just like that. One of the other cool things is the features of the top or side or wherever honestly you want to put them, seeing how there are mounts for them all over the place. So right here we have these fan rails, as well as you can hook up your radiators to them, and I mean, you can practically hook anything up. Like, there's holes and ways to align them. You simply pop this up and push forward, and the line thing comes out with a little mounting hole right here, and there are little cutout notches right here. Hard to see, but there's little cutout notches that these ends slide into on the other side. So the way this was set up right here is you can actually set it up to have 2, or set up to hold 2 or 4 fans. You can have it set up to hold 4 120mm fans, or you can have it set up to hold, so there's the 120, or you can have it set up to hold, which I have it set up right now, to hold one 120mm fan and then one 140mm fan. So you can do big fans and then little fans. You can't have 2, there's no support for 2 140s though, like that and like that. It's just not big enough. You guys see they're already touching. There's no more space, and there isn't any more notches to even try to align that up. So we can have the 140mm and the 120mm, which is awesome. Total of 4 fans on the top if you really want, or 2 radiators. And of course, like everything else in this case, you simply total modular badass stuff all over the place. Now on the sides, for the support I see on the sides, it looks like you could only put, let's see if that's in right. Nope, that looks really, there's 2 holes here, so like I put in the wrong one. So you can do 140mm or 120mm set on each of these fans. So I think I had it in the right one the first time. I'm not sure, you guys. There's 2 holes here, and I'm not sure which one I'm in. That's what she said. Alright, so you just tug that in. That one's a little bit harder to pull in. They are labeled right and left, so I mean, it's kind of hard to screw it up, but I think they only fit in one way anyways. Maybe not, because they did label them, and then there's one at the top. So basically for each side, you can do this on the other side too. The top is the only one that'll support 2 next to each other. The bottom, or the side panels, only support 1 going along like that. So overall, you could have, if you bought more of these clips from Thermaltake, you could have your entire case surrounded in fans, which would be freaking ridiculous, but you could definitely do it. I mean, you could have, these could be 120 or 140 right here. Right now I think they're set to 120. Yeah, they're set to 120, but you can have 120 140s. Then you can have, so let's say you have 2 140s here, 2 140s here, 2 120s here, and 2 140s there. or all 120s, you know what I mean? That's how you can do it, which is freaking awesome. That's so many damn options for fans that it is just crazy. So back to what I had said earlier about me doing the whole, I need to fit my ATX motherboard in here. So here's how I want to have the case set up. I will not have these in the way though, so these will be out of the way, because these are going to stay somewhere on the top or something like that. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really planned out too much on my radiator support and stuff, but these are going to be somewhere. Not sure yet. But as we can see right here, this long little trail right here, this is about, what, 10 inches in length. A standard ATX motherboard is 12 inches by 9.6 inches. So a micro ATX motherboard is 9.6 inches by 9.6 inches square. So it's a square. And the ATX board just cuts in just long enough to fit inside this case long ways like that, so I could flip the case up like that and have the window here, the bottom right here. So that'll be awesome. I will be cutting out basically this old motherboard tray and installing one that is for a ATX size motherboard, as well as I might have to do this because there's only 5 PCI slots and we have some wasted space right here in the back by the I/O plate. So I might be cutting out this whole section right here all the way up to the edge, not completely to the edge because I don't want it to cave in on itself, but as close to the edge as I can, and I will be installing one that is made for my motherboard, which will be exactly 12 inches long, which this thing is 12.6 inches long, so it is going to be a very close cut. So wish me luck on that. Hopefully I don't ruin an $80 case. But anyways, you guys, is that all? Oh yeah, one more thing that, here goes the negative, you guys. You ready for the negative? Here it comes. I don't know what the hell they were thinking when they did this. I have absolutely no freaking idea, because there's all the space in the world to have fixed this problem. So it has to do with the power supply. So when you put the power supply, say this wasn't the bottom of my case, but I still have my power supply in here. So we'll throw my power supply in here, which turns out it's not going to fit. We got to put it in through the bottom. So say my power supply is in, you know, la-da-da, power supply in. So if you have this mesh cover, obviously they fixed that issue. Now the power supply can breathe completely free with this cover, and it has a dust filter. But if you want to use their standard bottom, it's kind of off-centered. And I don't know why they did that, because there's enough space to make it centered. And I don't know why they didn't make this 140, because there's a lot of bigger power supplies, especially in a bigger case, that they want you to do custom water cooling, which if you're doing custom water cooling, chances are you have a pretty intense system with at least an 850 watt, 750, 1000, 1200, 1600 watt power supply in it. And most of those have a large 140 millimeter fan in them. So I don't know why they wouldn't have made it 140. It would have taken an extra all but 10 minutes to do it, but they didn't. But you know, something I can live with. But that's just another thing, one of my main complaints I guess I would have about this case. But overall, Thermaltake Core V21, awesome case, you guys. Go buy one. Anyways, this is Steven with All Talk On, and I'll catch you guys later.